hands outstretched above his head, then lowering, over and over. "He's right. Let's go with it," Marc said. "We wanted to come see how things were out here, and this appears to be the most successful safe zone we've seen other than any port, so—" "All right, but it's not my fault if they try to trap us here," Jeff said. "I just know they're going to try to steal the zeppelin." "So make sure the gondola comes down on the firing step. We'll hang off it a little, but most of it will be on the stone. Then we remove the gaseous generator and propulsion unit. We take it with us, and they can't steal the zeppelin then unless they've got one also," Marc said. Jeff nodded, then focused on lowering the zeppelin. Marc went back to the door, opened it a crack, and hollered, "Clear out! We're going to touch down. You don't want to be under us then. We can tighten the mooring ropes from inside after we're down." Jeff brought them in within inches of where he was aiming. They took in the slack from the mooring ropes until they were taut. Then Marc realized the problem. The gondola was down, and the majority of it was sitting on the firing step, but the door was on the portion that was hanging 3 feet over the edge of the firing step. Fortunately, the zeppelin, much like the hot air balloon, had a rope ladder as part of the standard loadout. "Okay, I want you guys to stay on board and guard the zeppelin, all right?" Marc said to the legionaries and the scout. "I don't think anyone is going to mess with it, but they definitely won't if there are guards waiting at the top of the rope ladder. That's the only way in without breaking something." "The Centurion wanted us to guard you," one legionary replied. "Well, as soon as we make sure their intent regarding the zeppelin, maybe that'll be possible," Marc said. "At that point, you can also go talk to those other legionaries I heard you mention. I know my dad will be rather happy that they're still alive. He was all eaten up about sending men to their deaths to try to rescue others." "He asked for volunteers at the time, and most of us did. He just chose which two. It's not like he ordered them," the legionary replied. "That's not how he sees it. Anyhow, he'll be happy to know they survived, and for the moment, the best way you can guard me is to make sure we have a zeppelin to get back to if we have to flee this place," Marc said. The legionaries gave him a reluctant nod, and Marc opened the door, then dropped the rope ladder after securing it. There was about a 2-foot gap between the bottom of the ladder and the ground, an easily navigable drop for any of them, so he was prepared to go first when Jeff shouldered past him. "You know I can do this in more style than the rest of you. Then I'll hold it so you guys can come down more gracefully," Jeff said, dropping out of the door and pretty much just sliding down the ladder. When he reached the bottom, the group Marc had noticed started towards him, but Jeff held up a single finger for them to wait and grab the ladder. Marc went down next, followed by Rob. Felicia followed the tank with Ella coming down last. Once they were all down and Jeff released the ladder, the group started approaching again. The first 3 people were the older ones that Marc had seen. The 2 in front were of average height and slightly overweight. One was balding with gray hair along the bald patch, while the other had gray hair shot through with strands of brown, as though he were on the verge of all his hair going gray. Welcome to our university," the balding man said. Marc just stared, shaking his head mentally. The second man spoke up then. "We hope you've come to participate in our programs. We've learned quite a bit of how to survive in the world nowadays, and are more than happy to share our knowledge." Marc was sure his jaw was starting to drop and made a mental effort to stop it. Then he noticed the third of the older men. This one looked like he was former military. He probably wasn't quite as old as the other 2. He only had threads of gray in his high and tight, dirty blonde hair. What had caught Marc's attention was that the man was rolling his eyes, apparently at the statements from the other 2 older men. The third man was in much better shape than either of the first 2, looking to be about the same level of fitness that Rob had been at a few levels prior. The first 2 men kept talking, saying essentially nothing in a pleasant manner, and Marc tuned them out, watching the third man. The third man was mouthing along with the platitudes of the first, his eyes rolling so much that Marc was sure the man was going to give himself a headache from it. As the first 2 went on, and on, the third man started bouncing his head from side to side, then caught Marc's eye and mouthed, "Later." Marc tuned back into the other 2 men just in time to hear them invite his group to dinner at the cafeteria. "We've had a fine run of our own produce here, plus our taxes pay for purchases from the system shop that enhance our food selections. So long as everyone contributes, we all eat pretty well here." That Marc had an answer for. His intent had been to help, and they still had plenty of food supplies in the cargo area. He dimly registered the 2 men saying that the main safe zone also supplied food to the satellite safe zones that surrounded this one. So he thought that this...